Varochana continued. Only by right exertion can dispassion be attained. There is no other means. People talk of divine grace or fate, but in this world we perceive the body, not a God. When people speak of God, they imply what is inevitable, what is beyond their control, and the events of natural order. Even so, whatever brings about total equanimity and the cessation of joy and sorrow is also referred to as divine grace. Divine grace, natural order, and right self-exertion, all of them refer to the same truth. The distinction is due to wrong perception or illusion. So we don't see gods, we just see bodies. People say it's all in God's hands, it's all part of the natural order, what can we do? But this perception is being challenged here. There can only be right exertion. And we're talking about attaining dispassion, and this is dispassion with regard to our desires, to our cravings. Whatever the mind conceives of through right self-exertion comes to be in its fruition, and when the mind apprehends such fruition, there is experience of joy, etc. The mind is a doer, and whatever it conceives of the natural order, niyati, creates and manifests. So here the mind is really that intention to turn the attention away from its own notions and to turn its attention to itself. And when you do this, you automatically get the results. And this is realization of this Supreme King that we've been hearing, which is none other than Brahman, the Absolute. And we're told here the mind is a doer, and whatever it conceives of, it creates and manifests. We must be careful about how this is taken. The mind creates notions and ideas about things, and it manifests itself. These ideas and notions manifest in the sense that this is what we relate to. This is how we experience things. We have the notion of an external world and an individual self. And then this is how we experience things. There is no external world, there's no individual self. These are notions which we've gradually learnt. We've gradually cultivated such notions, and then that is how we start to experience things. So it's in that sense that a natural order, the word is niyati, is created and manifests. The mind is also able to run counter to the natural order. Hence it may even be said that mind is the prompter of the natural order. So the mind is able to run counter to the natural order. The natural order is the result of our cognitive process. We can bypass this cognitive process, realizing our own nature as awareness. And when we do that, we're back at the Absolute, realizing our supreme nature. And it's then that the cognitive process takes us away again and creates the whole thing. We get caught up in the whole thing once again. We get caught up in our notions once again. There's a to-ing and fro-ing going on all the time between our awareness and the objects of our awareness. This is the spiritual arena, flipping between awareness of our awareness and awareness getting lost within our notions of how things are. Even as wind moves in space, the jiva, the individual, functions in this world, doing what has to be done within the natural order, though such action appears to be selfish or egotistic. Prompted by nature, he seems to move or stand still, both of which are mere expressions or false superimpositions, even as the movement of trees on the mountain top makes it look as if the peak is swaying. So there's a semblance of activity in rest, movement or standing still. And these are described as mere expressions or false superimpositions, because nothing's really happening. We're caught up in notions of things happening, notions that we're actually doing something, whereas it's only consciousness which is ever doing anything, and we superimpose notions of our limited individuality on this consciousness. Hence, as long as there is mind, there is neither God nor a natural order. When the mind has ceased to be, let there be whatever is. So in other words, when we're caught up with our everyday notions, we challenge them. We challenge their validity. We challenge their reality, because they are only notions. And once we realize that, once we're established in our own awareness, then we can engage with all these notions, knowing that they're only notions. And this is where the playful nature that was described previously comes in. We just play with them. We don't take them seriously, although we do engage fully with them at the same time. That might seem like a contradiction. How can you engage fully with something and not take it seriously? But this is the wisdom of the sage. Bali asked, Lord, tell me, how can the cessation of craving for pleasure be firmly established in my heart? Virochana said, My son, self-knowledge is the creeper that yields the fruit of cessation of craving for pleasure. It's not pranayama, it's not meditation, it's not other practices, it's self-knowledge, which comes about through self-inquiry. It is only when the self is seen that the highest form of dispassion becomes firmly rooted in the heart. Hence one should simultaneously behold the self through intelligent inquiry, and thereby get rid of the craving for pleasure. That's the way to do it. When the intelligence is still unawakened, one should fill 2/4 of the mind with enjoyment of pleasure, 1 part with study of scriptures, and the other with service of the Guru. When it is partially awakened, 2 parts are given over to the service of the Guru, and the others get 1 part each. When it is fully awakened, 2 parts are devoted to service of the Guru, and the other 2 to the study of scriptures, with Dispassion as the constant companion. So, if you haven't stumbled upon it, if you haven't managed to flick on the light switch, and you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about the awareness resting in itself, well, there's a suggestion given here. But basically you just got to try whatever you can and be open to whatever happens. Don't get too rigid or fixed in expectations.